It gives me great pleasure to welcome everyone to our panel today, Palestine Reflected at the Library of Congress. And I just want to start out with this little image of so many diverse things about Palestine that we have. We had this wonderful video, The Gaza Kitchen, and it was a Palestinian culinary journey. And it's recorded, it's available, and it just shows the diversity of our collecting. And I want to give you a little, the Library of Congress is huge. We cover all the way from the congressional research, copyright, but we're in the researcher services, and we're in the general and international collections in the African and Middle Eastern division. And this is comprised of three sections. Our African section covers all of sub-Saharan Africa. Our Hebraic section, our colleagues cover Judaical worldwide, and we're in the Near East section where we cover all of North Africa, Arabic speaking, the traditional Middle East, Turkic countries, Iranic, Central Asia, Armenia, and Georgia. And today we are looking at Palestine reflected primarily in our Near East section. The items by Palestinians and Palestinian organizations. It's going to be covered by Dr. Mohammed Salih. Iranic collections related to Palestine is going to be covered by Harad Dinavari. Palestine in the library's Armenian collections is going to be covered by Dr. Kachik Moradian. Philistine, Ottoman land then, and relations with Turkey and now will be covered by me, Joan Weeks. And we're going to follow up with the Gaza Strip collections, Preserving Palestinian Heritage by Huda Dayton. So it gives me great pleasure to now bring this over to Dr. Mohammed Salih, turning the mic over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. As we stand witness to genocide, to herbicide, to domicide right before our eyes, as we observe the brutal and savage extirpation of an entire population, it behooves us, nay, it is incumbent upon us as scholars, as librarians, as archivists, to document and preserve all sources, all manner of sources, in order to properly and accurately document everything that was, everything that is, with a view to what should be. I'm going to give you a sampling of what is available at the Library of Congress. These are things. Posters are generally neglected. People don't assume, but posters are very, very important in that they give us an idea of how a group perceived itself, okay, due to the circumstances surrounding it, okay, and how it chose to portray this perception to the rest of the world. What we see in the middle is a poster by Fatah, which was the largest political party in the PLO, rest in peace. And to the left over there, we see one by the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine, and the other one by the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, which were two leftist parties. At the bottom, these are not commissioned by the PLO. This is, again, how the struggle was perceived and how it was portrayed to the world. As the old adage goes, a picture tells 1,000 words. And it is important actually to dispel two erroneous notions that, okay, this struggle is thousands of years old. The Arabs and Jews have been killing each other rather, for thousands of years. And, there's nothing we can do about it. Or alternatively, this all started by a terrorist attack on October 7th. Actually, the Palestinian struggle started with the inception of the concept of a Jewish homeland in Palestine, their land. And they have consistently sought, there have been struggles, revolts ever since. There were revolts in 1920. What we see here are photos of the 1929 revolt, which is the Burak revolt. On the far left over there is an Arab delegation in a protest movement. You can see Haj Amin al-Husseini over there, the founder of the Arab Higher Committee, the one which Netanyahu not long ago said convinced Hitler to commit the genocide. You know, the Mufti made me do it, right? But this protest gathering went to appeal to the British High Commissioner, and, you know, felt a lot of good that did, actually. Then we see the 1936 Great Revolt, which lasted around 3 years or so. And this actually is during this result that the kufiya became the symbol of Palestinian resistance. At the bottom, to the left and the right, we see the first pages of the story of the oldest and largest refugee population in the world. And then in the middle, there's the iconic photograph of Arafat giving his gun and olive branch speech to the UN. Geography maps are extremely important, especially historic maps, because not only do they show us the changing in the borders due to political and borders and within the country, due to political and military circumstance, but also the place names. I mean, most Western textbooks today will use the Hebraicized names. Most encyclopedia entries even. I mean, the original Arab names are almost all but forgotten. So this is an important source. Pamphlets, like photographs, pamphlets are a way that a person actually perceives what is going on around them, assesses it, predicts the future, and seeks to telegraph it to the rest of the world. The one in the middle shows, circulated in 1920, shows the Zionist demand, the Zionist plans, rather, to capture the holy places in Palestine. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you see one that's the nuclear bomb that is Palestine, that has been launched on the Arab world, one about the British horrors, or the horrors rather, committed by the British against the Palestinians. My favorite is the one over here, Fatah. And I remember when I first found this, Marlis probably remembers, I was working on this and this topic, and I was like walking on air, you know, like I found some priceless treasure. This is the first pamphlet produced by Fatah. And it comes as they document the Battle of Karama, March 21st, 1968, a mere months after Israel, the IDF, had soundly defeated some 3-4 Arab armies in a matter of days. On March 21st, a bunch of ragtag guerrillas, with some backing by the Jordanian army, managed to hold these forces off at a village aptly named Karama, dignity. I would be remiss if I did not mention the Palestinian Christian role. Today, all we hear about is Hamas, these Islamist radicalists. They're the ones in control. That people don't even know that there are Palestinian Christians. Palestinian Christians played an incredibly important role in the Palestinian struggle, their struggle, really. And again, these are just samples. You can see to the left, pictures of two revolutionaries, George Habash and Wadi Haddad, who founded the PFLP and DFLP, respectively. On the right, or rather, my right, your left, these are two preachers, two priests. One, Reverend Auder Rantisi, who lives in the West Bank, and again, documents the struggle they have in the West Bank, all the discrimination that they face. And the one on the bottom is Reverend Shahada, who is a 1948 Arab, and again, talks about the discrimination they face in 1948, in the 1948 area. And then we have Jonathan Kuttab, who's a famous lawyer who seeks to put the whole thing into a legal perspective. Archives and surveys. Here, I would like to give a shout out to a panel that was here a couple of days ago that wants to create the digital archive of Palestine. It's a wonderful project, and I wish you the best of luck. It's extremely important. But in Palestine, there was no national archives. There's never been an official body of national archives. So whatever, if you see like the British survey here, whatever was done under British mandate is in the British archives. The rest was the Ottoman items are in Istanbul. And whatever was left was just simply taken over by Israel. And, you know, we have no access to this. Some Israeli scholars can get access, and even that is becoming more limited from my understanding. So in its self-styled role as the government in exile for the Palestinians, the PLO put together these compilations of documents. And, you know, it's very good that they did, because these could have been lost. I mean, there's a reason why libraries, why universities, why archaeological sites are being destroyed. Okay, so this was a way to preserve it. And, you know, they've done a number of things. For example, they have the Palestinian encyclopedia, which also contains a lot of very important documents, and the papers of the resistance groups, and things of that nature. And I mean, the documentation has been going on even before the PLO. Finally, there's independent documentation. Independent documentation is extremely important when there's no official body to collect these documents. And so we have, I mean, independent documentation, as you can see in the far left over there, has been going on since the 30s. Okay, but then we have Walid Khaldi's seminal work on All That Remains, which documents all these villages that were completely eradicated, depopulated after 1948. Again, an incredibly important work. Then there's the Encyclopedia Palestinica. This is a recent one, and for those of you who don't have it, I would strongly recommend it. Rocha does a wonderful work, wonderful work. And then in the absence of paper documents, pictures become the documents, really. And these are compilations of photographs, Khaldi's before their diaspora, which documents the civilization that was there, the ongoing evolution of a civilization. Sambar's also photographs of the Palestinians, and God Cried is basically aptly named by what happens in Beirut after the Israeli invasion. With this, I would like to end with a quote, very recent quote by a Palestinian spokesman at the UN. We will not leave, we will not leave, we will not leave. Thank you.
The one above it. Hi, folks. I am Hirad. This was not easy because most of the collections on Palestine will be in Arabic. So I am not going to claim to have huge amounts of materials in the Iranic collections, but I decided to take the big view, historic, all the way from ancient to current present. And I just hit the arrow key. So I decided to go back to antiquity and the migrations all the way to the present. So I just want to say that the connections with what we historically refer to as Canaanite civilizations, in which Palestine, Israel, and all that are part of, go far back, even before there were Iranian peoples in the Iranian plateau, when Iran had ancient peoples like the Elamites and Lulubis and Kassites, etc., who were not Iranian. There have been connections with the peoples in the Zagros Valley, the first farmer communities that were developed in Anatolia, in Levant, referred to as Natufians, and the Zagros Valley in Iran and Iraq. From back then, the catalytic period, the Copper Age, you've had interactions and migrations back and forth, and goods being exchanged. Today, archaeology clearly shows that materials have been passed back and forth from Afghanistan, precious stones to barley and all kinds of goods that has been moving. So the connections to the regions are very age-old. Then I also wanted to go into history that is recorded. So when you look at ancient Canaan, the Israelites, Philistines, Hebrew kingdoms, of course, Cyrus the Great. I'm not going to read through this whole thing. You can look at it. You have the ancient Persian period, which comes to an end with the Hellenistic Alexander's invasion and siege of Gaza. When Gaza was taken over, the Persian period ends. Then you have a Greek period, the Seleucid period. With the coming of the Romans, you have back and forth with the Romans. The Parthians take over Jerusalem. And then the Sasanians and the Byzantine period kept coming and going. Why am I bringing all this up? Because there is a huge amount of research now being done, not just in the West, by Western and Russian scholars in Israel, also in the Middle East, in Jordanian, Middle Eastern, also Iranian sources that is looking at this ancient connection. And I want to showcase two things. The classic one is a Cambridge History of Iran, which is in English and old. But I also want to show you a 20-volume work that was just done by the great encyclopedia of Iran, Darat al-Ma'arif Bozorg Islami, which is a complete comprehensive history of Iran. And I've showcased the page on the Achaemenid up to the Sasanian period, including the chapters that are about the taking over Fath, Gaza, Sur, as well as Mesr, Egypt. So there's some really interesting new scholarship, and there's a lot. If you guys are interested, I couldn't list it all here. There's so much in English and other languages on the antique period. Then I also wanted to sort of jump to the medieval period. Before we get to the 19th, 20th century, we repeatedly in Persian literature and culture have references to the biblical stories that have come in through Islam into Persian literature. And some of them are beautiful poetic works like Yusuf and Zulaykha, Joseph and Potiphar's wife, for example. A lot of poetic work that refers to Canaan, goes back to Canaan. There's quite a bit of that. And I will actually read a little bit of it for you at the end. But the things that are well documented, the first immigrants that ended up in Palestine, modern Palestine, from Iran, were the Baha'is. And I have documented, listed here, a number of resources that caught my eye and subject headings. For the first Baha'is that first they were exiled to the Ottoman Empire, and then from there to Akka. So we have this wonderful work here by Abbas Amanat that I've listed. And I also have a sampling of other books on the Baha'i folks that ended up in Palestine, part of this whole movement. And of course, the great Baha'i gardens of Haifa are now an icon. The next wave, this was in the 19th century, were essentially Persian Iranian Jews that ended up going to Palestine, Israel. With the formation of the nation state of Israel, there were Persian Jews who went there based on the whole ideology of Zionism and wanting to go back to our Jewish homeland. But later, a number of Persian Jews had to go escape there because of the Iranian Revolution, because they found the Iranian revolution to be intolerant. So we have waves of Persian Jews, and they're not all monolithic. I think it's important that we document all the different groups that have come and gone. And I just want to show you a sampling of Persian Jews here. We have an amazing collection in Iran. At the Library of Congress, that's we in short we call it CIJO, Center for Iranian Jewish Oral History. It has oral history of about 120 to 200 Persian Jews who settled, some of them in the US and New York, but a number of them in Israel. And here I'm showcasing some of them. Rita, who you see in the middle, Jahan Afrouz, is Israel's one of Israel's biggest pop stars. And her story is in that oral history. Also, I have a work by Ruhollah Kohanim, who is very much loved in Los Angeles. He was based in LA, but he did this amazing 4 or 5 volume book, which traces the Jewish Persian community all the way back to Canaan and to Israel. So that's a very interesting thing because it's in Persian, and it also showcases the historiography of Jewish Persian identity. Also, I have political works like Meir Ezri, who was the last ambassador of Israel in Iran right before the fall of the Shah. He was of Iranian background from Isfahan. I'm trying to showcase a range of Persian Jews that have made it through Israeli society. So this is something also I wanted to showcase, people that have moved from, Iran to essentially the region. Then I want to go into the Pahlavi approach and materials we have from that are more political, that are also trying to deal with the Arab-Israeli and the Palestinian cause. You have a number of books that were done under the Shah's period, which were trying to look at it historically, the history of Jerusalem, the issue, the conflict between Arabs and Jews, etc., etc. So those are sort of trying to look from above and not be involved, and they're trying to take a historical view. But we also had people that are in, like you see the book here, Jang Arab Israel, who are thanking the Shah of Iran for being so benevolent and smart not to get Iran into quagmires like the Arab-Israeli. So essentially it's a praise of the Shah, but through the lens of the Arab-Israeli conflict, which I thought was quite surprising. I didn't expect. But at the same time, at the end of the Shah's period, we had leftist groups, Islamist groups that were developing. Jalal Ahmad is a good example. And his book here, Israel Amil Imperialism, Israel, the Agent of Imperialism, is the beginning of the political worldview towards the Palestinian issue in Iran. And we have the Iranian Revolution. See here, I have a number of books. They don't have very pretty covers. We do have a number of posters in Persian done after the revolution about the Palestinian issue. Unfortunately, they're not digitized. I was trying to get access to them, but Muhammad showed you some beautiful ones, so I don't need to do posters. But here are some books. These are 2 books by Khomeini himself, his sayings about Palestine, the Khomeini or Imam, his stance against Zionism. Also, Akbar Rafsanjani, the former, president / parliamentarian, his book Israel and Palestine. There's a book that he wrote also on the issue. And then I also have several books that I've listed, but I have no pictures, by Ali Akbar Velayati, the foreign minister of Iran for years, who has written several books on the Palestinian issue, and also works done by the Iranian Foreign Ministry. The book that's there, Jebhe Nejat Milli Palestine, is about actual assistance and help to armed resistant groups, Palestinian armed resistant groups of various, backgrounds, some secular, some leftist, and some Islamists. So that's interesting. Now, academic works. I really want to showcase this one. It's a source of pride and joy that I'm glad we have. 8 volumes. It's a Danishnameh, or Da'arat al-Ma'arif in Arabic, if you like, of Palestine, done in Iran. It's an 8-volume work that it's very nicely done and academically done. It doesn't take political stances. And I also want to show you that the Palestinian cause is dear to other Persian speakers too. From Kabul, Afghanistan, I have this beautiful book that says, دو زخم بر یک پیکر, 2 wounds on one body. It is got a map of Afghanistan with the Masjid al-Aqsa right there on top. It's a beautiful icon, and it's essentially, okay, I'm done almost. Essentially, it's showing you the resources that are there. But last but not least, the book that is done here in the middle, Iran and Palestine, past and present, if you really want to capture and understand what's going on in the 20th and 21st century, this book is fully digitized. It is the best resource to sort of track the political developments from the Shah's period to the present. Last but not least, I mentioned poetry to you, so I'm going to end with 2 lines from Hafiz's Ghazal 255. یوسف گم گشته باز آید به کنعان، غم مخور کلبه احزان شود روزی گلستان، غم مخور ای دل غم دیده حالت به شود، دل بد مکن وین سر شوریده باز آید به سامان غم مخور. In other words, it's giving you hope. I'll read it in English. Fear not, the long lost Joseph, you know, the Joseph of Canaan, the long lost Joseph will return to Canaan. Don't fret. Your abode of sorrows will one day become a rose garden. O sorrowful heart, your state will improve. Do not be disheartened. And this restless head will come to its senses. Fear not. So with that ray of hope for all of us, Philistine, the entire Middle East, and Iran as well, we're all going through rough times. I want to say, hopefully this will come to an end and we will end on a better note soon. And with that, I'm...
I'd like to, my presentation will deal with the Library of Congress's Armenian collections as they pertain to Palestine, Armenians in Palestine, as well as works produced by Armenians in Palestine on Palestinians and the Palestinian cause. I'd like to start with some of these earlier items that we have. There has been a robust Armenian presence in and around Jerusalem for centuries, for a couple of millennia. The oldest Armenian four Gospels at the Library of Congress that we have was copied in Jerusalem in the early 14th century. These are all part of the Armenian digitized content on the Library of Congress's website. We have a number of works on the history and geography of Jerusalem and surrounding regions, published in the 18th century and onwards. Prayers for pilgrims to Jerusalem, such as, again, the book on the right of Enkomnia, published in Jerusalem in 1858. The first commercial photography studio in Jerusalem was established by an Armenian, the Krikorian family, that becomes famous, and there, and the family's history across 3 generations very much is a reflection of the history and the experience of the Palestinian people. It comes to an abrupt end in 1948 as the family becomes part of the Palestinian diaspora. So the Library of Congress, the Prints and Photographs division, has a number of photographs from the Krikorians, some of which are digitized. This is a recent book that we acquired, and that features the story of the 3 generations of the photographers and stunning photographs from Palestine, everyday life, the key moments in history, pre-World War I, during World War I, in the aftermath. Mohanna talked about some of the revolts, images from that. A fascinating collection in many regards. Another key source that I would like to highlight is a collection that, in fact, the Cairo office assisted us in acquiring from Lebanon. So Spirk was for a long time an Armenian literary journal published in the Middle East, and after the 1990s, it changes. And this collection of documents that are the Asala Spirk archives. The Asala stands for Armenian Secret Army for the Liberation of Armenia, an Armenian militant group that was established in 1975 in Lebanon. Its leaders primarily were actually involved in the Palestinian struggle. They trained in Palestinian camps in Beirut and beyond. So there, here you do have, and it's very obvious in these archives, in these documents, the collaboration between different Palestinian groups and the Armenian Secret Army for the Liberation of Armenia. These are materials in Arabic, in Turkish, in French and Armenian, predominantly, I would say, in Arabic. And they include newspaper clippings from the period. So the Armenian Secret Army for the Liberation of Armenia worked with a number of Palestinian organizations. they were several members actually came of age in the PLO. Others were involved with the PFLP. Muhanna talked about the PFL, mentioned the PFLP earlier. And so this collection has several documents pertaining to meetings between Armenian and Palestinian groups. It has records of trials and court records, and a large collection of newspaper clippings in several languages, including, as I mentioned, Arabic, but also many that are in Turkish. Another collection, and here I've only selected English language ones, but the library has a large collection of Armenian language memoirs, accounts, diaries, and so on from Palestine that sort of reflect the entangled experiences of Armenians in the region, are seen here. The first one, From Dardanelles to Palestine, by Captain Sarkis Torosyan. This book became notorious over the past decade as it was translated to Turkish, and it engendered a very robust debate within Turkey about the role of Armenians in the Ottoman military, and about whether his descriptions, particularly some aspects of the descriptions in the memoir that appeared in the memoir, were actually true about the war. He is serving, so Captain Sarkis Torosyan begins serving in the Ottoman military, but ultimately he ends up fighting with the British. And so he, and that's the Palestine part with the Arab Revolt. The second book that I've chosen, Feast of Ashes, is the biography of David Ohanessian. In many ways, Armenian ceramics and the art of Armenian ceramics that very much has become part of the skyline of Jerusalem is a product of another genocide, the destruction of the Armenian people during World War I, as many of the survivors, particularly from the region of Kütahya, arrived in the region. So this is the story of one such person who brought his art into Jerusalem and played a critical role in making these ceramics part of the Jerusalem skyline. And the third, then again, here too, we have that entanglement, is an account of Armenian Palestinians, the British Mandate, and the Nakba, the Saga of Survival, a more recent book by Varsen Ağabekyan. Thank you, everyone. And I'd like to pass it on to my colleague.
Thank you very much. I'm going to talk today about Philistine, Ottoman land then, and relations with Turkey now. And I'm taking on my Turkic hat. I would like to start out with this Ottoman map. Yes, maps are very, very critically important to this. We have this map here of the Ottoman Palestine. And what it shows is the Palestinian administrative divisions, principal towns, roads, and caravan trails. And from 1843, and it also has an inset area for modern plan of Jerusalem, Kudus, as it's known. And again, as we're saying, these former names, place names, are so critically important. And I've put a little, what we call permalink in my citations here, and that clicks you back straight to the bibliographic record and how you can access it. A lot of what we're showing you today is hopes that you take it back to your libraries and engender interest in scholarly research into these collections. We're here to facilitate that research and point to places where research really could help. And this one I'm highlighting today is the 1852 status quo decree of Sultan Abdul Majid. This established the rights, obligations, and division of the Holy Christian sites in Jerusalem and Bethlehem by denomination and forbade any alteration to the status of these sites. And this arrangement became known as the status quo. And this is a Turkish resource. I won't do it. Kudüs, again, Jerusalem, histories. So this looks at these places of worship and the temples of Christians. And I'm looking at things like this includes Ottoman primary source documents. And a lot of our scholars want to have access to the Ottoman primary source documents. And I say, well, they're in the Ottoman archives. But I'm noticing a trend now with the Turkish researchers taking these source documents and transcribing them into modern Turkish and including images of what they pertain to in their research. So here we see Bethlehem Kilisesi, the Church of the Nativity. And one of our points is showing this diversity of the religious communities in Palestine and protecting the rights of all these different communities that are also under pressure and persecution. The next work I'd like to show is Sultan Abdulhamid Ghazi, the Philistine era. What this is, Abdulhamid ascended the throne in 1876. And in 1878, Jerusalem's status quo arrangement became internationally recognized, which is critically important. This laid out that framework under the Treaty of Berlin, which was signed between European powers and the Ottoman Empire following the conclusion of the Russo-Turkish War of 1877 to 1878. So this set out all internationally recognized in the Palestine religious sites. And I wanted to show you how this work, again, has Abdul Hamid's decrees. They have translated it into modern Turkish, and I pulled out 3 out of about 140 some decrees, and I translated a few samples into English, so you get the idea of what his 118 decrees look like. The confirmation of the official duty of a Perlev, a citizen of the Ottoman Empire, appointed by France as the deputy consul to Gaza. The dismissal of the Gaza district governor Omar. I wonder why. And the appointment of the former district governor of Kostandili, Ahmed Hamdi Effendi, in his place, and making Hanimnus, which was attached to Gaza, a district, and pardoning those who owned taxes by dismissing soldiers from the population. Don't we wish something like that would be happening today? What we are looking at is how he tried to administer Philistine. This work I found particularly interesting. It is the 100 Years of Jerusalem, and it takes us through 1917 through photographic journey of all these major religious sites in Jerusalem during the Ottoman rule. 1970, it was under Ottoman rule. And in 2017, after the United States officially recognized Jerusalem as the capital state of Israel, this includes all this compare and contrast. It has official documents from the Ottoman archives translated into modern Turkish, which really helps our scholars facilitate research for the ones that don't have the Ottoman Turkish skills, Osmanli Turkçe. I wanted to show you some of the compare and contrast. The image on your right in black and white is Kibat el-Saqqara in 1917. And of course, the Caliph Abdul Malik ibn Marwan built the Dome of Rock between 685 and 691 AD. So here we contrast on our left the image as it appears in color in 2017. I appraise our catalogers who have gotten these subject headings into, this is what I looked at when I went through these works. And this is what I found, how I found them. So here we have things. I'm going to start looking at Turkish public opinion, because I think these other communities, the Iranian perspective, the Armenian perspective, the Turkish perspective on this whole Palestinian situation. We have Palestine foreign relations with Turkey. Where would that have happened without the catalogers coming up with these new subject headings? I want to come over here with Turkish public opinion of Philistine. What are we seeing? One of the best works on this was Philistine Kirktasha, 40 Stones of Palestine. Here, 40 writers, Turkish citizens, compose essays on topics related to the struggle for Palestine independence. Again, the permalink here to retrieve this work. And I wanted to have this little synopsis of the work. I've translated the Turkish synopsis here, but I think it's important because it shows this perspective. Written words remain, we said at one point. We are a huge family of 40 people. This time we took pens in our hands for Palestine was the name of the occupation and massacre of the struggle for independence. 40 people who do not know each other but embrace each other as brothers open their doors to you with 40 different writings. You too can be a part of this family and leave a mark on this world. And this is the contents, the 40 people with their names at the top. And the first one, Melek Ozdar, the Infodata. I'm going to just show, here are the 40 people and their writings. And here are the sample topics that they were writing about. The difference was being born in Palestine, Arab-Israeli War, Yasser Arafat, Palestine's children, Israel's major operations against Palestine, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, Mahmoud Abbas, and again, children's of the war. So I'll leave it with that. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to present the Gaza Strip Collections Preserving Palestinian Heritage. This is my name. I work as an Arab World Librarian at the Library of Congress. Okay. Let's go like this. Okay. I have aims for this presentation. The first aim, the general aim, is to explore the Gaza Strip's history and culture through books, periodicals, and photo collection at the Library of Congress. The specific aim of this presentation is to increase knowledge of how the Library of Congress collection on Gaza will contribute to the preservation of Gaza historical and heritage for future generations. Geography of Gaza. Probably most of you know that, but I thought just to remind you, this is like a region or sort of like a slash country by itself, and there are people there, and they have history, they have culture. So the Gaza Strip is on Mediterranean, and the name of Gaza loosely translated as a strong city. Has many theory about that, but this is one of the most of what I have read. It Gaza's measurement is 41 kilometers, 40 to 42 kilometers length, and between 6 and 12 kilometers width. About 2 million people live in Gaza. Gaza has regions divided to 4 governorates. Deir al-Gaza city, of course, is the highest population live there, and Deir al-Balah, Khan Yunis, and Rafah, which is close to Egypt. we're going to explore Gaza's history through the Library of Congress. Like, we talk about Gaza history, and then what we have, collection books and periodicals on the historical and on Gaza as a region. So the historical context of Gaza has long history dating back to Bronze Age, when it was inhabited by Philistines. The area later conquered by the Egyptians, Assyrian, Babylonians, Persians, Greek, Romans, and Byzantine. We have some examples here of the collection we have. This is just an example. I just brought them to respond to the historical context. We have the history of city of Gaza. This was written in 1907. People, they think probably is the first one written in English about Gaza. The scholar from Cornell wrote this book. This book, by the way, is online. It's digitized by the Internet Archives. You can find it. The second one is إتحاف الأعزة في تاريخ غزة, which I translated into Gaza's History, a gift for the dearest. It's 4 volumes. It was manuscript and being reviewed and edited. It's a family. It's written by Ghazan family. And the third one is the 1,000 years of Gaza, of presence and civilization of Gaza. This is to show that there are some literature written about Gaza, and there are people live there really. Historical context. In 635 CE, the Arabs conquered Gaza from the Byzantines and became an Islamic region. During this medieval period, Gaza had saw a different period of Islamic rules, ruled by Fatimid, Ayyubid, Mamluk, and Ottoman. We have here some Arabic collection. The one to the left, to your left, it's like a book series, about 16 volumes, written by Sakakini, because somebody was talking about Sakakini. It covers probably, I think, all aspects of Gaza, the history, the literature, the even children stories. The one in the middle is about the story of Gaza city, and the one to the right is Tariq Gaza. It's just two volume. It's very valuable book too. Now we're going to move to the culture and historical site of Gaza, in Gaza. One of the most important centers of Islamic tradition, Gaza known to be the burial place of Prophet Muhammad's great-grandfather, Hashim ibn Abd Manaf. They have a grave there the grave is known as a mosque of Sayyid Hashim. Gaza, that's why Gaza is called Gazzat Hashim, Gaza of Hashim. It's like another name of Gaza. And also Gaza known as the birthplace of Shafi'i, Muhammad Idris al-Shafi'i, the founder of the Shafi'i Madhab, School of Jurisprudence. We have collection and a picture in the middle, a photo in the middle, respond to this culture and historical site. The book to the left is Gazzat Hashim, discover the historical Islamic and non-Islamic history of Gaza. The one in the middle is the Great Mosque of Gaza. Is also known as the Great Omari Mosque because they've been built many times, and Umar ibn al-Khattab built it. The third one is the Islamic historical building in Gaza Strip. Also another culture, there are numerous of archaeological sites and museums and heritage sites in Gaza. Gaza is full of historical sites, by the way, offer insight to Palestinian culture. One of them is the Samson's Gate, named after a biblical character. This picture, of course, this is all in the Library of Congress, was taken in 1862. The one next to it is the ancient town of Gaza. The historians suggest the town has inhabited different time, but different people. We move now to the Gaza political context. Gaza has been center of conflict between Israel and Hamas since 2008, and military action and blockade have repeatedly occurred. The United Nations, of course, and human rights organizations have documented numerous human rights violations in Gaza. According to UN, it's an occupied territory. One of the collection here respond to the link to this political context is the famous Goldstone report, which is the United Nations fact-finding mission on Gaza conflict. The one in the middle is أصول الحركات في قطاع غزة, which is the origin of political movement in Gaza Strip. You know, people in Gaza, they write and they publish, and sometimes the researchers make us aware of the other, you know, collection we have. The last one here to your right is the Gaza Nucleus of the Palestine. This book was 1966, was written and suggesting that it's like Gaza is the heart of the Palestinian problem or issue or suffer. Also, another collection also attached to the political context, Israel and Palestine have been negotiating peace for decades. Children in Gaza after school, they have another job, which is digging tunnels beneath the border of Gaza so they can facilitate the merchandise to be passed through the tunnels. We have, I'm going to start with the right one, which is the tunnels. This is a film we have at the Library of Congress. It's not, of course, not online because of the copyright. But it's very fascinating film. It's documentation of the building tunnels, the engineering, and also the suffering and all the political mechanism of building these tunnels. The one in the middle also linked to the topic, which is the Gaza Strip and the Jericho Area Agreement in 1994, and the last one to the left is the Amanpour did some coverage of Gaza in 2009 during the war. We're going to move now to the economic and social development Gaza and what we have collection at the library responding to this topic. Gaza economy is based on agriculture, fishing, and industry. The blockade and conflict have hurt economy, causing high unemployment, of course. You know, it's been written about this and published. For example, we have the economic situation of Palestinian families in Gaza Strip, a result of mass uprising. Also, we have الجهاز المركزي للإحصاء الفلسطيني, the Central Bureau of Statistics of Palestine, Olive Press's census. These people, they have economy, they produce, they write about them, they also have statistics about it, if any researcher would like to do some research about that. Also, we have to the right, we have the Labor and Workforce Journal. Also, in the economic, also we have economic growth. Economic growth has been constrained by the limited access of food, fuel, and building materials. Also, there is a journal here, التجارة الفلسطينية, Palestinian Commerce Magazine. And to the right, I'm going to talk about the one in the middle in a second. To the right is statistical table of economy of the occupied Palestinian West Bank and Gaza. You know, the book in the middle is Environmental Warfare in Gaza. This tells a story of how Israel has destroyed large area of Gaza's farmland through aerial chemical spraying, enabling them to shoot at Palestinians' target from a distance. We move to the education and learning. Gaza education system, with all this obstacle, achieved remarkable progress despite all of that. Number of schools in Gaza fluctuated over time because of the factor of conflict. Recently, about 547 of the 567 schools in Gaza were either destroyed or damaged, according to Palestinian Authority and UN records. Gaza, the people in Gaza and scholars, they publish periodicals, books, etc. One of them is Afaq. This is Future Academy of Creative Thinking. The one in the middle, Journal of Palestinian Study. The one to the right is Palestinian Journal of Education. Also in Gaza, there are universities. They have in Gaza about 12 universities or 12 institutions of higher education have been destroyed totally now in this last war. This university, they produce a lot of scholarly articles and work. We receive questions and requests for articles all the time from journals published in Gaza, and a lot of researchers they mention that they can't find them anywhere. One of them is the Islamic University of Gaza Journal and the Journal of the Al-Azhar University. Al-Azhar University in Gaza is a branch of the Al-Azhar University in Cairo. The health and medical care. The medical care system, of course, in Gaza faces numerous challenges, including the inadequate health and infrastructures. According to the World Health Organization, 29 of Gaza's 36 hospitals, there are 36 hospitals in Gaza. It's only 41 kilometers, and you can think why. So 29 of these, probably now all of them being destroyed, but since I wrote this, they said 29 of Gaza's hospitals being destroyed or damaged completely. That means 84% of the health facility is crippled. Linked to this topic is Central Bureau of Statistics in the Palestine territories. It's water as statistics, they produce some statistics of their well-being or their facility, just to make sure that they have standard of living. The one in the middle is a very, very recent book, but published 2024. We have it at the Library Congress, Gaza Genocide Bed Sheets. It's about the destruction of the hospitals. The one to the right is Palestinian Red Crescent Society General Conference. Human rights and struggle posted. I have two more slides and I finish. These slides they are published. Some of them are fairly new. Since 2007, Israel blockade of the land, air, seaport, restricted goods and movement of people. Gaza experiences unemployment, experiencing poverty, etc. I mean, a lot of problems. So sometimes the posters are the fastest message to pass to people. The one in the middle, these all in the Library of Congress. The one in the middle is, as you see, wanted war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu. The one to the left is genocide is not justice. This is about Gaza. This is genocide is not just. This is about in Gaza. It says. Find Israel. I can't read it from here. Yeah, and the one in the right is in the killing of children in Gaza. It's all strong messages to the world. Last one is the human rights. Also, a continuation of the human rights struggle is a severe humanitarian crisis. As everybody knows, has been created by political isolation, limited resources, and conflict. International solidarity continue to press accountability to support humanitarian efforts and ensure human rights in Gaza. We have a poster in the middle. This poster is a newspaper headlines between 1969 and 1979 about the Popular Front for Liberation of Palestine in Gaza, and with hand holding a Molotov cocktail. This was produced in, as I said, in 69, between 69 and 79. The one to the left is Al-Mantar. This is a media bulletin of Palestine Center of Human Rights. The one to the right is the annual report of Prisoner Care of Human Rights Foundation in Gaza and all Palestine too. And thank you for your attention. I would like to say something that thank you to Cairo office. We could not have done this without your help. Seriously, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for our panel. I hoped we'd have time for questions, but I see we're at time. So we're inviting everyone to explore and try to contact us, send your researchers. We're here to facilitate research into these collections. We also, I want to mention that, for example, the Palestinian pamphlet collections digitized. Do a Google search, Palestinian pamphlet collection, Library of Congress. So discover our digitized collections. We're working on things for external. If they're not under copyright, these older maps, other things are available and we're trying to digitize. Others are digitized, but you have to come on site. They're behind the firewall to use them. So thank you all again.
John, maybe we could just take one question, I think, before we do a quick break. Ryan, did you want to?
Thank you so much. I had a question for Mohanad. Thank you. That was a wonderful presentation, and I'd love to refer students and scholars to work with those collections. I had a question about discoverability. I was wondering to what extent the materials you talked about are in discrete collections about Palestine versus to what extent, for the posters and prints, they're in the photographs and prints division and discoverable under a subject heading or something like that. I know that Tahir collection is its own collection, but I was wondering about the other ones. And then I know we just lost Dr. Ryan, but if he comes back, I want to ask a similar question about the Sphere collection and the Asala collection. But yeah.
Mohammed, can you take the mic?
Right here.
A lot of books.
Yeah, this is projecting.
Okay, so can you hear me? At the Library of Congress, we're divided into so many sections. So when it comes to posters, they're going to be in the prints and photographs collection. So you'd actually have to search those. The pamphlets that I was showing were from a Tahir collection. So those would be online. The prints and photographs ones are online as well. I mean, not everything's online, but most of them are online. Let's see. Most of the books, if will be on. I mean, you can. They're extremely searchable. You can find them on the catalog. I don't know. You mentioned something else I'm missing.
The Armenian collection as well.
Oh, but
yeah.
All right, guys. So you might have noticed that there isn't a formal lunch break scheduled into the program, but I would encourage people to grab food if they need it on this shorter break and come back. So we'll regroup in 10 to 15 minutes. Thanks for a wonderful panel from our Library of Congress colleagues.